The truth is, it's a million miles from the reality of EU-Africa trade policy as it exists now, because our economic relations with Africa are simply a continuation of European colonialism, perpetuating exploitation by other means. Africa trades more with Europe than it does with itself. It's portrayed as a poor continent, but actually it's the richest. It's just that the people there are denied the fruits of their land and their labour by unequal economic relations, by unfair trade rules, by illicit capital flights into the Western banks, and by multinational corporations allowed off the leash by Washington, London and Brussels. I don't think you'd have to be a genius to know that the last thing the Horn of Africa needs is more foreign military bases, more weapons and more European meddling. What we call our strategic relationship isn't about human flourishing, it's about the EU's ambitions as a superpower. There's now a new great game in the Horn of Africa. Greater and lesser powers are pockmarking the place with military bases. France, the US, China, Germany, Japan, Italy, Saudi Arabia all have a presence in the tiny area of Djibouti alone. Mercenaries are swarming in from all quarters. The entire region is being militarized. War is in the air. And what about the people facing climate and food insecurity? None of this benefits them. We talk about instability, but we only make it worse. We flood the place with weapons, hand over the profits to European arms companies and charge the bill to our citizens. And then with the carnage, we go back in and we do it all again. It's a racket. Strategic relationship, it's one thing after another, isn't it? Really, it's the same as it ever was.
I don't know whom this lady is, but everything she said here is just the truth. Everything she is saying is what we are suffering in this continent. I don't know what is happening now, but most of you will realize that all their hidden agendas are being brought to light. Maybe this is the reason why they are struggling to ban TikTok, because a lot of things about Africa has been exposed. My brothers and sisters, Africa has suffered a lot. We have no friends. Africa has no friends. Everyone coming here in the name of partnership is coming with ulterior motives. The time is now. Let us start speaking in one voice. Let us come together and unite this continent. And let us, most importantly, protect our young leaders, because they are their target. They don't like anyone that is coming to rescue us from them. God bless Africa, and thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about this video.
I've lived in 5 different countries in Africa. I've lived in Malawi, Botswana, Zambia, Morocco, and Nigeria. Never once in all my years of living or traveling on the African continent have I been mistreated in any way because of my ethnicity, because of my skin color. And this is in spite of the fact that I come from a country who are guilty for some of the worst colonial crimes ever inflicted throughout human history. That's right, I was born in Great Britain. And without doubt, the British and the French committed the greatest atrocities across the continent of Africa. The Belgians have a good claim for the greatest atrocity in their treatment of the Congolese, but if one looks at it as an entity and the number of countries that were invaded by the British and French colonialists, one will see that they are the worst protagonists. Despite this, and despite the behavior of my ancestors, I have never been mistreated. In fact, I have been welcomed warmly in all of the countries I have lived in or visited. And when in Africa, I don't cocoon myself in some enclave dome which is inhabited by people who like to refer to themselves as expats. I hate that term. But no, I integrate as much as possible within local society. I will go to a shebeen, I will go to any compound and experience life as it is for people in the country where I am based. So whether that's in the village, whether it's in the township, whether it's in the local bar, I will integrate, I will mix, and I am always made welcome. Now contrast that with the way many Africans are treated when they choose to live in the United Kingdom or France or other parts of Europe. The difference is incredible. The everyday racism experienced by African people on the European continent is a crime against humanity. Now, there are different types of racism. The most obvious is the day-to-day experience that an African will have whilst living in parts of Europe. The name calling, the staring, the subtle discrimination. And for many Africans, they will just brush it off because it is so common that they just get used to it, sadly. Worse though is the institutional and structural racism that Africans have to abide with. The restrictions on their movements, the fact that most passports emulating from the African continent will only allow Africans to travel visa-free to a handful of countries, and most of those will be other African countries or countries in the Caribbean. And moreover, the difficulty that Africans have finding work in Europe is unimaginable. People who are qualified as doctors, accountants, lawyers, university lecturers, nurses, teachers do not have their qualifications and experiences recognized by most European countries. I know many people from Africa working in various parts of Europe as security guards or as care assistants when back home they had highly skilled professional jobs. But that experience is rarely recognized when they come to Europe unless they come as part of a transfer with an existing company. But if they come because they've migrated to Europe, their chances of accessing the sort of job which they are eminently capable of is slim. Now, if a black person was making this video, they would be quickly dismissed. They'd be dismissed as having an axe to grind or always trying to find problems. And again, that's part of racism. The fact that I can speak because of my white privilege means that I have a duty to do so. Not because I'm married to an African woman or because I have many African friends, but because I like to think I'm a decent human being who appreciates the value in every person on our planet.
Africa's politics have fallen into the hands of elites as these people just do what the colonialists did, which was suck the wealth out and shift it overseas. World Bank says between 60 and 70% of Africa's capital shifted out of the continent. It's in banks in Europe. So there's this mentality which I think has allowed a very small group of people to take over those countries politically but also economically. And until that changes, that is, until there's a new generation or even a revolution that actually takes power back to African people, I think those problems, that lack of development, will continue.
White men with fragile egos and zero empathy are extremely dangerous individuals. And when they become police officers, it becomes deadly. It's a deadly combination. I watched the Sonia Massey video, and I had no idea what I was watching. I knew it was some kind of body cam footage, and I stuck around until the end, and I almost threw up. I've watched a lot of people be executed in the past 10 months. I've seen the most grotesque pictures I have ever seen in my life. And what happens to Sonia hit me so fucking hard in a way I didn't think was possible. She was executed by a man who laughed about it, who showed zero sign of remorse. or shock or any other normal human reaction. It's the same behavior we see from the IDF soldiers, as if he's done it before, as if it's a regular sight for him. Who the fuck are these losers that end up being police officers? If anyone should score high on an empathy test, it should be a police officer. Yet for some reason, it's the opposite in the States. The fact that as a black person, you're more in danger if you call the cops is an insane reality. And it's sick. And how they haven't worked around that to find a solution for these motherfuckers being in the police force is beyond me.
Now, after embarrassing his wife in front of a lot of people in public, a 34-year-old police officer, while on duty in the Eastern Cape, responded to a call of shoplifting at the local supermarket. Now, upon arriving at the supermarket, the police officer too was very embarrassed to find that the perpetrator was his own wife. Whom he embarrassed a few days ago. My humble apologies, but what a way for his wife to respond. I think we're going to have to come back to this story in a short while.
How to lose weight. How to lose weight. How to lose weight. There are those fat people who want to lose weight, but they don't know the procedure. Here is the advice, and please pay attention. If you want to lose weight, then always shake your head from left to right repeatedly. Left to right repeatedly and faster. Left to right repeatedly and faster. How often should you do that? Every time anybody offers you a food.
In this video, the US is about to unashamedly admit that they had been involved in trying to get a president that they prefer to be elected in Venezuela. They admit to doing this through sanctions, through foreign aid, and trying to get generals in Venezuela to flip on the current president. And they think there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Just listen.
We just have to be clear that our Venezuela policy over the last year and a half has been an unmitigated disaster. And if we aren't honest about that, then we can't self-correct. We have to admit that our big play, recognizing Guaido right out of the gate and then moving quickly to implement sanctions, just didn't work. It didn't. Okay. All it did was harden Russia and Cuba's play in Venezuela and allow Maduro to paint Guaido as an American patsy. And a lot of us warned that this might happen. We could have used the prospect of U.S. recognition or sanctions as leverage. We could have spent more time trying to get European allies and other partners on the same page. We could have spent more time trying to talk to or neutralize China and Russia early before we backed them into a corner from which they are not moving. They're not moving. But all we did was play all our cards on day one, and it didn't work. And it's just been an embarrassing mistake after mistake since. First, we thought that getting Guaido to declare himself president would be enough to topple the regime.
Listen.
Then we thought putting aid on the border would be enough.
Foreign aid.
Then we tried to sort of construct a kind of coup in April of last year, and it blew up in our face when all the generals that were supposed to break with Maduro decided to stick with him in the end. We undermined Norway's talks last summer, and then this March we released a transition framework that frankly is almost a carbon copy of the very one that was in front of the parties.
And he's not ashamed. He's not ashamed of the sanctions that we implemented or trying to manipulate them using foreign aid or trying to get the generals to flip on the president of Venezuela and even calling it a coup. He's not ashamed of anything they've done. He's upset that it didn't work. I have another one, by the way.
If my colleagues will indulge me for just 1 minute, I want to speak quickly to the elections that just took place in Venezuela. We applaud the Venezuelan people for their participation in the July 28th presidential election. We commend their courage and commitment to democracy in the face of repression and in the face of adversity.
Okay.
We've seen the announcement just a short while ago by the Venezuelan Electoral Commission. We have serious concerns that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people. It's critical that every vote be counted fairly and transparently, that election officials immediately share information with the opposition and independent observers without delay, and that the electoral authorities publish the detailed tabulation of votes. The international community is watching this very closely and will respond accordingly.
So I'm not sure I want to know what he means by respond accordingly, but as far as international community is concerned, this country could not give less of a shit what the international community thinks, because they are still supporting is not real. They're raising money for them, they're supplying them with weapons, and they've admitted and committed to continuing to support it even though it's illegal. So that just for the record, they do not care about what the international community thinks. Now, if you think that the US is not having conversations about South African elections the way they have conversations about Venezuelan elections, we are being very naive, just for the record. Okay.
Good evening, my lovely people. I'm telling you, the Ruto administration is going to be the end of this country. Guys, have you seen the bill that has been presented in Parliament by Kimani Ichung'wah? The livestock bill, where every farmer, every pastoralist, anyone with an animal needs to register an animal with the government. So if your cow gives birth, you need to register it. Have you seen the fines involved? And you know, these people, I don't know what's wrong with these people. They are completely taking this country and handing it over to corporations, international corporations. They're taking over our food system. We are Africans, we feed ourselves, we have our traditional ways of maintaining and sustaining our population. Now, this government is taking everything and handing it over to the globalist corporations by these bills they're passing. This is just like the finance bill, guys. There's another one, the Seeds and Control Act, where they're taking our seeds and controlling our seeds. Now this is another one, the livestock bill. There's also another one. Which one was that? The agriculture bill, where you need to be registered to farm. Guys, who is going to save us from this administration? Take these videos, forward to a member of parliament. I don't know if they still have some senses in their head and see what they're doing in this country.
The trip to the US, yes, private jet, $200 million, or 200 million shillings.
Jeff, it is ridiculous. It's preaching water and drinking wine. Because you cannot say we don't have money to pay for this, we don't have money to do this. Then the taxes that you keep raising every day from poor Kenyans, you are spending these taxes in a very luxurious way. The wastage that is there, you cannot do that. Other presidents before him have taken commercial flights. I was a minister with Dr. William Ruto in Kibaki's government. Kibaki used to take commercial flights. I was also a minister with him in the cabinet of Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta used to take commercial flights. So what is so special about William Ruto that he must hire such an expensive jet all the way from Dubai? It flies and then flies. In fact, what Uhuru would do, he would fly to Dubai with a Fokker jet, then board a commercial flight from Dubai to the US. Here is a hustler who is saying, we are doing very badly, we don't have the money, but he would wait for the jet to come for him from Dubai to Nairobi, then fly him. Why didn't he fly with his aircraft that is paid for by Kenyans to Dubai, then connect from there? He would have saved some costs. So we are saying it is something that cannot be justified. It is also a way of the president failing to market Kenya Airways. This is the pride of Africa. It should be the pride of Kenya. Any president who is a patriot must show pride in going with the Kenya Airways, flying the Kenyan flag and marketing it to the world. We have direct flights from Nairobi to New York. If you are the president, you flew from Nairobi to New York or aboard Kenya Airways. That is marketing that airline. It is also showing how it is easy for you to have breakfast in Nairobi, then you have dinner in New York. You cannot say, oh, Kenya Airways is too expensive, when we all know that this jet is a luxurious jet. Other presidents have flown Kenya Airways. Why couldn't he do that?
Wadau, how are you doing? My fellow comrades, my fellow criminals. I want to talk about these clowns. Unajua mimi sielewi how this government operates. Sijui kama ni kuelewa hawajaelewa the way we operate, that we don't operate ile design wamezoea ama. Please let me just give you some simple advice. Nyinyi watu mna advise our president and this government. Endeni mkawaambie wana deal na breed tofauti ya binadamu. Wana deal na breed tofauti ya vijana wajita Gen Z na millennials. Hizi games hazita work. Hata mtume nani, hata muabduct. Hizo vitu haziwork. Sisi tuna remain on course and on mission. Hizi drama na series mnajaribu ku create hazita work. Hamta to divide, hamta to confuse, hamta tufanya to derail. We are on a mission, and we are going to remain on a mission mpaka to achieve the mission. And the mission is simple. We have a president who has proven to us that he cannot lead our country, who has proven to us that he'd rather send snipers and wazee wazima wakuja washoot watoto wadogo than have dialogue with us. The moment for dialogue was there. Hata hatuko tumefika mahali Ruto must go ama we were just talking about the finance bill. Tuliko tumetulia sana, tuko tunasema fanya hivi Mr. Prez, fanya hivi. So ulikuja ukatuomba kura hebu tuwai to finance bill, unatuumiza. Umeshafanya vitu mingi sana za kutuumiza, but hii wachana nayo. But ali choose kutosikiza. So saa hii we are beyond that. The fact that he chose to send his policemen, snipers on the rooftops all over the CBD to unalive innocent young men and women who were speaking, practicing their democratic right to picket and demonstrate and peacefully say that we want our rights. We chose to practice our rights in Article 1 of our Constitution and act as sovereigns and tell these people who are our representatives, who we give our power, who we choose to donate our power to. Ulikata kutusikiza. So hizi drama zitawaka. Ebu tafadhali kaeni kwa boardroom na mrievaluate the way you do things. Inakaa mmeandika watu wenye vichwa zao ni kama ziko na kasoro. Hizi games haziwork. We are not relenting. We are not backing down. The more you try to confuse us, the more you are going to be charged. The more you try to confuse us, the more we are going to use that as fuel to make sure that we are going to keep on organizing. The mission is one. You, Mr. President, have proven to us that you cannot lead our country. You choose to kill us. You choose to torture us. You choose to abduct us instead of having a dialogue with your citizens. So for that, we want you to vacate that office. We want you and your ministers to go home. We want you and your parliament to go home. After that, we will deal with what comes next. But as for now, what we want is simple. Easiest tafanya, easy ni drama series. Awa ni nani? These are clowns. Who are these? Who are these? Hizi ni mawat? Ni mawat hizi who ni ati wanatuongelea kama nani? Aba jamaa tu kiangalia, they just look like people who are eager and hungry to get some tenders, and wanakaa ni kama hata wakulangi vizuri. They look hungry and some of them look even like they don't have enough to eat. Manzi, tafadhali do better. Please, you had a chance to lead the country and make it what it was supposed to be. You had a chance to lead Kenya to become the Silicon Savannah of Africa, but you chose not to do that. You had the chance to say no to your IMF and World Bank friends and your American friends, but you chose to say no to that. So fanya hivi sahi, because mumeshindwa na kazi, niendeni home. You choose to go home peacefully, ama we are going to make sure that maximum pressure is applied until you go home. But easy drama series achaneni nazo kabisa. Hizo hazitawaka. Number 2. This is the next batch of clowns. You see these guys who are beside the president? These are the next batch of clowns. The church has proven throughout this revolution that they were not with us. Even when they joined in only after they saw that we had realized what they are doing. So, kujifanya they are going, mieta na shanga. What dialogue are they going to have in the president? Which party is the church playing in this thing, by the way? Unajua mimi mpaka nashindo. Kwani the advisor team of our president inakuwa ni team inakaaje? Kwani nyinyi watu wenye mna advising president surely unajua hata nyinyi pia mnaangusha uprezo sana. Juu mnakaa kama mnampatia advisor na kali kama yeye mwenyewe amechanganyikiwa. Like why would you call the clergy to discuss what? This revolution was led by our young men and women, our Gen Zs, our small young brothers and sisters. Ndio wali lead movement. Wakati empower sisi millennials kuwa join. And now everyone else joined in. So why are you bringing the church to do what? The church is already part of our enemy. The church has been a problem in our country for 60 years. They are part of what we are going to deal with after we are done dealing with you. After we are done dealing with you, this church and these corporates are part of the next thing we are coming to deal with. After we are done with this government, the next thing is the church. After the church, we are coming to the corporate world. After the corporate world, we are coming to everyone else who didn't show up to represent and do something for this revolution. So tusikani kama tunaenda kucheza games. We know these people don't represent us. They don't represent us. There is no way wataenda kupiga picha State House when they did not offer any assistance or any help in the movement. Ayo pana. Even when walianza kupeana safe zones and kusema ati people can go and hide in their rooms, that was only after the movement had kicked off. So please, it is simple. You clergy, please, either you're telling your congregation to join the movement, or mnyamaze. Easy shenanigans. We're not going to buy that nonsense. We are staying on course. We are going to remain steadfast. And we are going to make sure that our country truly gets its independence. And comrades, this is our moment right here. This is our only moment to finally give Kenya its true independence. This is our only moment where we can come together as a country, have a national dialogue, and talk about a referendum where we can revisit our constitution, do serious amendments to deal with all this nonsense that has brought us here. We must never again allow our politicians to abuse us. We must never again allow corruption to be the enemy of Kenya. This is the moment right here to rescue our country, comrades. And we cannot lose this moment. We will not allow any sideshows. We will not allow any nonsense or anyone who is saying he's our leader. We don't have a leader and we don't want a leader. Our mission is to rescue Kenya and is not to create anything. Our mission is simple. Our leader is our mission to rescue Kenya. That is the only leader we need. Our leader is our mission, our energy, our bravado to rescue our country called Kenya. That is the only leader we need. After we are done rescuing Kenya and making sure that we've gone for a referendum, going for a national dialogue, making sure we have audited our national debt to do why are we paying 10.3 trillion? That is the only leader we need. Our leader is giving Kenya its true independence. Our leader is making sure that our fallen soldiers, our foreign comrades will never be forgotten. Our mission is to making sure that all those comrades who died in front of parliament will forever be celebrated, learned in schools, and taught to our children as the heroes who fought for the third liberation of our country. That is the only mission and that is the only leader we have. Hizo zingine zote sijui kuita watu wa church, sijui kuita tu clown fulani tunakuja hapa tumevaa viatu zingine viatu fani hapo na suti zingine zinakaa kama wameomba. Hizo drama hazitawaka. And I'm telling you, please get better advisors. Get advisors when you are na akili, because the ones who are advising you currently seem to be confused. Please get advisors who are going to help you. Otherwise, this thing is going to get worse before it gets better.
Niaje madungis na madunges. Morara ndani ya nyumba, najua mnashanga. Rada ni gani Morara? Hebu tupeleke na mtaratara. Bas, usikii tarehe ni 8 mwezi wa 8, tutakuwa ndani ya CBD, tutakuwa tunawakilisha. Sherehe itashika, itakuwa ni noma juu ya noma, fireworks. Tutakuwa tumetokelezea hapo, kila mtu na flag yake na firimbi kuja kushow mzoe. Unajua mzae ni aje? Bana, umetubeba ufala sana, umepepeta wase wetu maridhe wamenyuria, alafu reward unatupea ni kutuwekea maduanzi ndani ya serikali yako bana. Itabidi ujue kwamba wananchi ndio kusema siku zombo tote. Kwa hivyo kama uko nai, shikisha mwenzako mwenye anatoka Ocha, mpe place ya kudoze. Na pia wewe kama unatoka Ocha, make sure umeka mapema, kwa sababu kutakuwa na masanse, kutakuwa na maarme, na kutakuwa na mambaru hapo kwa barabara. Kwa hivyo make sure mazee umeka rada yake mbaya.
You invited me to the National NABJA. I call it NABJA, much easier. I'm very good at spelling, very good at pronouncing things. I'm very good. I love coming to things like this because there's so many beautiful black queens. You guys like to say Queens. I'm from Queens. There's a lot of black, beautiful women. I've dated many of them. You cannot say that I don't like black people. I love black people so much. Had a lot of black girlfriends. Well, I didn't tell anybody. And I'm going to tell you, you were very rude. Your questions are very terrible, very rude, very stupid. You could have said hello. You could have said, what's up, homie? It's all good. How you living? You know, the different words that you guys use in your jargon. You could have done a little bit of jivey thing, could have given me dap, the little tricky handshakes. I could have gotten that, but you didn't. You asked me a very stupid question. I didn't like it. It was very pathetic. I was very, very disappointed. It was terrible. The migrants, they're taking over all the black jobs. They're taking them all over. It's pretty pathetic.
What are black jobs? What are black jobs?
Jobs that are people that are black, that they have jobs. They're the jobs that black people have. The jobs, any job that black people have. I mean, Obama had a white job. He had a white job. He took that job. It was a white man's job, and he took it, and it became a black job. And that's what Kamala Harris is trying to do. He's trying to make president a black job again. That's what it is, a black job. Excuse me, Mr. President, do you even know what the conference of NABJ stands for? Of course I do. I know. That's why I'm here. That's why you invited me. It stands for the National Association for Black Jobs. Plain and simple, plain and simple.
Mimi nataka niwaambie hivi, na nataka mnisikize vizuri. Hii barabara ya kutoka hapa kwa Gen Z kuelekea hapo Millennial mpaka pale Generation X, nilikuwa nimeweka uongo 1 billion kwa hii finance bill, lakini hawa wakaleta kisirani. Hiyo mswada ikaanguka. Nitazungumza na huyo mjumbe wenu. Kwa hii finance bill inakuja, nitaweka uongo ingine 3 billion ya kazi ya hawa vijana na hawa mama mboga na hawa watu makanga, hawa vinyozi na wale wabeba ili waweze kukopa deni ya serikali bila interest, waweze kujiinua. Mimi nataka niwaambie hivi. Nataka muombee Kenya. Tuko na msukosuko mingi. Iko kisirani mingi. Mimi nimetenga pesa ya hawa mabishops na hawa intercessors ili waombee Kenya yetu. Ili Kenya yetu iwe na amani, na ili waombee ufisadi na waombee corruption ili iweze kuisha. Mimi nataka niwaulize hivi, nyinyi watu wa hapa nyumbani. Si nyinyi ndio mnafaidika na hii serikali? Si vijana wote hapa Kericho wako na kazi? Na hapa Nandi na Elgeyo Marakwet si wako na kazi? Si wamepata mkopo ya serikali ili kuendelesha biashara zao? I want to tell you, mimi niliahidi kwa campaign, there will be no extrajudicial killings. There will be no forced disappearance and no abduction. And I intend to keep that promise. Huyu kijana anaitwa Morara, huyu amenisumbua sana. Amenitesa sana huyu. Huyu nataka mniwachie. Ile panga nilipewa Kasarani kwani ni ya kukata mboga? Ati ananiambia ati yeye yako fearless. Si mimi nitamfanya awe lifeless. Hebu nione kwa mkono wale wanasema salale. Kweli nyinyi ni watu mmejielewa.
Ni yellow cab scam. Yellow cab scam moja ni shilingi 100. Na huu mmea unaweka not less than 20 cab scams. Which means huu mmea moja uko na shilingi 2,000. Na hizi mimea kwa hii laini ya 15 meters tumeweka 2 lines. 2 lines iko na 60 mimea. When you do your mathematics utapata 120 kwa hii line peke yake. Kuja hapa hivi utapata red cab scam. These are red cab scam. The same amount. Cab scam moja iko na shilingi 100 na inaweka 20 cab scams. 20 cab scams hapo iko na 2,000 mmea mmoja. Na hii line unapoiona hivi iko na mimea ngapi? 60 plants. 60 plants uko na 120,000. This is 120 times 8. How much is that? Milioni bwana. Kilimo ya greenhouse iko na pesa. Wacha kurusha mawe huko kusumbuana na Ruto. Kuja tulime, akikuja huko tunamfukuza, hatumpei ushuru. Ushuru hatumpei. Iko hapa chini ya mchanga. Sisi hatulipi, shauri yenu.
Tuko tayari. Tunataka kukufa watu wengine milioni hiyo moja. Wale mtabaki 54 milioni mbaki sawa. Lakini inchi mtaishi kutukumbuka. Mimi siogopi. We will die another 1 million. Hatuwezi ishi ati inchi ya mtu anaiba milioni 10, mwingine anaiba anakuja kutusifia kwa TV. Sahi, I'm ready. Nikuambilia mahali niko. Simtume DCI. Mimi siogopangi. Mimi nilipata pesa nilikuwa kijana mdogo, nimekula maisha imenichokesha. Niko na pesa. Kujeni muni
you.